Hi, my name is K.Thomas, W1DED. Today I have with me Kyle Krieg, Alpha Alpha Zero Zulu. I've known Kyle for quite some time, from my earliest days back in ham radio a couple years ago. Heard him on the air, have him in my log several times. He's got a great reputation as an expert in Node Red. He has his own YouTube channel, but that's not why he's here today. I'm really intrigued to hear Kyle's ideas about contesting and where it might go in the future. So we're going to delve into that in a minute. Kyle, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Kevin.
So even though I said I wasn't going to delve into those other things, I do want to just get some foundation in place. How did you get into ham radio and how long ago was that?
Oh, I got my license back in 1995, and it started in the CB craze days where back in high school, our social media was having a CB in your car. And that's how I got a hold of all of my friends in high school. We would get on the CB and we'd talk to one another and figure out what was going on. So then that progressed into college. And I was sitting at Mizzou at the University of Missouri, Columbia. And I was on the solar car team. And one of the professors was talking about telemetry, and we could pipe the telemetry over ham radio. And I piped up and I said, "Hey, that's kind of like CB." And it got me interested. And before I knew it, I was taking my test and had my license a couple of weeks later.
What year was that again?
That was 1995, March of 95. So it has been what? Oh, you're gonna make me do math on camera, but it has been 20 some odd years.
In that amount of time, your involvement with ham radio, I'm sure, has progressed quite dramatically. What are your general interests in ham radio today?
Yeah, my general interests are contesting, parks on the air, new technology. The cooler, newer technologies is what I gravitate towards. I'm not really into DXing. I'm really not into a lot of the older digital modes. But portable work, CW, contesting, Node Red, getting the most bang out of your radio is some of the things that I gravitate
So
to.
tell me more about the technologies and specifically Node Red. I know that you've done a lot of club presentations on Node Red. You've been involved with some remote stations installing Node Red. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so Node Red is a piece of software that was initially programmed by IBM back, I'm not really sure how long ago, but it was for the Internet of Things, right? And it was to connect your washer to your dryer to your refrigerator to all of these things in your house. Well, um, someone, I'm not really sure who, decided to start connecting their ham radio devices together, but if you can get information out of a piece of device, I'm talking about serial, Ethernet, uh, those are the two primary methods. USB, you can pipe that information into a dashboard, and Node Red is the program that creates these dashboards and gives you like a heads up display of all of the peripherals in your radio in your shack. So what we have done on the Node Red Groups IO is there's a lot of smart people on that Groups IO, and there are basically you put nodes together to make flows, and flows end up going. The information gets put on a dashboard, and then that's how you get your heads up display, and it's command and control too. So it's all point and click. If you want to change to 20 meters, you click a button that says maybe 20 meters, and your radio will change, your amplifier will change. It is really cool. So there's a lot of smart people that have put a lot of time and effort into uh, con- uh, programming dashboards, and a lot of it is plug and play. But I didn't know anything about programming before I started, and if I can do programming on the back end, so can everyone else, because it is very simple. And once you get to know the logic, you start to think like a programmer and say, "Oh, if I have A and I have B, but I want C, okay, I just need to add these two things together to get C."
And tell me what the crossover is with remote work and Node Red, or are they just blending together because of your interest?
Well, they're blending together because it gives you a all-in-one dashboard or all-in-one look of what's going on in your shack, right? So typically, one would run Node-RED on a Raspberry Pi or a computer local in your shack, and then you would have all the information that you need right there at your fingertips, right? Well, in the remote world, I need a way to have all of that information at my fingertips, but somewhere else out on the internet, right? So what you can do is you can either VPN or SSH or some type of path into the Node-RED system. Therefore, once you get that information out of your remote shack and into your local computer, then you can control anything on the remote side, through the
So
dashboard.
I know a lot of remotes are using a product like AnyDesk, and they've got a green heron box in one corner, and they've got another box in another corner. How is this an improvement over that?
Well, one, it ties everything together in one location, right? So you're only looking at one screen. So let's say you've got a Elecraft amplifier and you've got a Green Heron rotator and a Green Heron switch box or an alpha or I'm sorry, a 6-pack switch, and you have all of these different peripherals in your shack. Let's say you have 4 or 5 different programs that you have to bring up at one time to control all these. Well, Node-RED ties all of that stuff together and brings it on one web page that you can, bring up and see everything in your shack on that one web page. So it's not only consolidates everything, but it gives you that holistic look of everything that's going on in your shack. Because for example, if your SWR is high, you might not know it. You might not even be looking at your radio, but you have another program, let's say your amplifier, that's going to tell you that your SWR is high, and that's like one of the primary pieces of information that you look for, and it's buried, a window back, and you're contesting, and it's a window back, right? So now you can have all of that information on your fingertips on a screen, and you can see what your amplifier is doing, you can see what your rotator's doing, where it's pointed, what switch you're on. Basically anything that, you can get that information out of, you can put on that screen and have one location to see it all.
You've made your point. You need to come back for another conversation about Node-RED and dig deeper into that. I'm really intrigued by that. As you know, I, with a partner on the West Coast, bought a remote station up in northern Maine. So we're trying to figure out how best to move forward with that station. Currently, we are using AnyDesk, and I am that person that has all these different things on the screen that are very disjointed, and it works, but it is clear that it could be better.
Having a PC at the remote end is key, right? You probably want to do all your digital modes, there locally, and just bring the audio back or just bring the screen pixels back, so you're not, burning bandwidth. But yeah, Node-RED is one of those programs that, you know, uh, someone had an aha moment where it brings everything together onto one screen. Therefore, you don't have to think about all of these different programs that are running in the background. If they crash, if they're not brought to the front, if there's an alarm, and there's a whole gamut of things that you can do in Node-RED, and it's basically just limited to what you want Node-RED to do. There's some things that the guys and gals on the groups IO have programmed, and I scratch my head and be like, I have no idea that you could have done this, but it is totally
So,
awesome.
Kyle, let's move into contesting, which is why I asked you to come today. And I've been listening to you and watching you for literally months now, and you've had a very consistent presence around this topic of contesting could and should be different in the future. And I think you base a lot of your argument on if we want to bring more young people into the hobby, we need to be a lot more aware of what motivates them, what energizes that group. With that, jump in. Give me your opening statement for why contesting should be different in ham radio.
Contesting is a game to begin with, but we need to gamify it even more to bring more people to the forefront and to recognize contesting as something that is cool and is fun in ham radio. And there are a bunch of ideas that I have to gamify ham radio and contesting. You know, you take a look at some of these big streamers that stream online gaming, and they have millions and millions of views on Twitch and YouTube, and they get thousands of people watching them at one time. And one of the things that kind of irks me about some of the contests that we have out there is if you stream or you post anything on social media, you're self-spotting, right? And one of the ways that we're going to get younger people, and whenever I say younger people, I mean people under the age of 50, we're going to get younger people involved in contesting and get get eyeballs in front of what we're doing. We have to be able to put it on the medium that they're watching on, which is YouTube and Twitch and TikTok and all of these other applications that I'm not even privy to because I'm out of the loop. But those are the main ones that come to mind that we need to be able to easily stream these contests and what we're doing and advocate towards ham radio so we get it in front of eyeballs that are going to gravitate towards these types of
So,
things.
Kyle, I know that some people have streamed their contest, not many. Tell me why more people aren't doing it, because we certainly have the technology to do it. People clearly have the cameras in their shack. Are people not doing it because of the self-spotting rule, or are they not doing it because of quote unquote tradition in contesting?
A little bit of both. I mean, whenever you read the rules on most contesting, read the rules on most contests, it says no. If you want to be in the unassisted category, you cannot self spot, and or they might even call out streaming specifically to say no social media interaction. And I think that is, you know, it's one of those things where if it's talked about in the rules to say no social media interaction whatsoever, that's gonna discourage anybody from getting on social media at all, right? I mean, that or they're going to just totally not care about the rules and they're gonna stream anyway and not submit a score, you know? Um, but we want people to submit scores, right? And that's another thing that we've talked about in the radio sport circles on how we can improve contesting. At some point, people are going to be fed up with the rules that are currently uh, in place now, and they're going to make their own rules, right? So, one of the ideas that a few of us have had is why can't we take a big contest weekend, like CQ Worldwide or WPX or NAQP, and we make a contest within a contest, right? We make our own rules, right? And it's you have to stream. That's one of the rules. Like you cannot submit a contest score unless you stream it, right? And until we have that type of like that 51% of the people are doing it, it's not going to this is a very grassroots thing that we're doing. But if we can get more people involved and make alternative rules, eh, we can get more young people involved. And going back to my idea of a contest within a contest, there's a lot of people out there that email me and write me on social media and say, I would participate in the contest, but one, if I submit a log, it's months before I know how I did. Like, why can't we have real-time reporting and after a contest is done, 2 seconds after the the contest is done, I know exactly how I did, right? This premise of you have to submit a score via email and then you have to wait months to get a result doesn't work in today's world, right? Kids that are streaming video games online, they know exactly how they won or if they won. And the LAN parties, these big, huge LAN parties that kids have, online, and they get on with their friends. They know exactly how well they did in their group. We don't have that in radio sport. We have to submit a log and wait months, and then after that, then the excitement's over, you know? You're done. Oh, I forgot about that contest because I'm on to the next thing, you know? I mean, there's a lot of ideas and, there's a lot of far-fetched ideas that I've proposed out there, but one of the issues that we have is we're not getting contesting in front of the correct eyeballs, and we have a population that doesn't wanna change, right? Instead of whenever you submit an idea, instead of, "Hey, let's talk about this," it's met with a ton of resistance, and it's always no. The first answer is always no, and it doesn't have to be like that. Why isn't it "That's a good idea. Let's talk about that for a little bit more and figure out what's going on and if we can implement it," or, maybe we can't implement part, or the whole solution, but maybe we can implement part of the solution and, come to a compromise on, "All right, we're not gonna do this overnight, but we're gonna do this over a period of, 3, 5, 7 years, and this is our long-term plan." I don't feel like contesting has a long-term plan.
So I'd like to examine some of these points a little bit further, and I'm going to take you back to the idea of live streaming. We know that as ham radio operators, we can't make money with our transmissions. I think one of the issues that has been posed, if someone is live streaming on a really popular YouTube channel and making money doing it because they've monetized their channel, how do you deal with that conundrum?
Whenever I stream my contests, I don't promote my channel. I don't promote the contest. I don't say anything about ham radio. I just talk about what I'm doing, right? And I'm not really sure how to answer that.
W2RE Ray Higgins just
Right.
posted this idea that first of all, he's developing a pretty significant Facebook channel, Facebook page, and he's been talking about live streaming on it. And he's been clear that he's getting paid by Meta to build this following. And he's asking the question of the contest and overall ham radio community, how will you accept this, or will you accept this? And I just thought it was an interesting approach that he's already recognized that it probably is a sore subject, and he's out there asking for people's opinion about it.
That's just in my opinion, now that I think about it, it's just the nature of the beast, right? It's no matter if it's on Facebook, it's on TikTok, it's YouTube, there's going to be ads and people are going to get paid. And that's just the way it is. If you are against that framework, then that's old school thinking. Go yell at somebody else that's on your lawn.
So one of the other points you brought up was a contest within a contest. And, it raises this question for me, what would be involved in doing that? I mean, I think one of the advantages that ARRL and CQ and the players that manage the CQ contests have is that they have infrastructure in place. They have the volunteer network, whatever system or processes in place, whether they're outdated or not, they exist. How can that be created from the ground up? Do we need a new set of volunteers? Is that what you're proposing?
Yeah. So we have got a groups IO called Radio Sport 2.0, and this is where we discuss all of these crazy ideas that we have. And you need a grassroots group to create new rules and to say, all right, the weekend of NAQP, we're going to use the contacts that we're making through NAQP, but we're going to submit a score to the NAQP sponsors, but we're also going to submit a score to this new contest that is going on at the same time. And it's going to take work. It's going to take a group of people that don't agree or want to have a new way of contesting to create new rules and new ideas and submit those to the contesting community. And it's going to be the first year might be 20 people submit a score, and the next year is 50 people, and the next it's 100, and then before you know it, it you've got this effort that has gone over 50% of people want to submit a score to this new type of contest. And then I think it gets attention where the old contest sponsors have to realize and say, oh, this is something that people want. Maybe we need to kick our kick our butts in gear and figure out these old rules are not working anymore. Let's adopt some of these new rules.
So it seems to me there's again two ways to go about this. Either get the traditional contest, I'll call them managers, to adopt new rules, or simply to start something brand new with a whole other structure. Is that plausible? I mean, when you're contesting 2.0, is there enough of a groundswell of people that want to move past the conversation and actually do the work of creating it? Because it seems to me, if it was just created out of, brand new fabric and it was presented, it'd either be successful or not. And if it was successful, that would then probably suggest something to the traditional contest. Has there been any thought given to, let's start from where we are, you 10 people, you're going to be responsible for, each 10% of this, and we're going to build this thing?
No, I don't think it's gotten that far yet. I mean, it's just a bunch of people talking about ideas on Groups.io and exchanging information on Discord. That's all this has started. And it's very discouraging whenever you bring just some of these new ideas to contest organizers and advisors and the people that make the rules and sit on these committees, and you're basically told to shoo fly. It is so discouraging that we don't have people in the ranks of power that have an open mind to say, you know what, those are some good ideas. Let's sit down with this group of people who are exchanging these ideas, put them on paper, whiteboard them, and figure out how we can incorporate some of them over, multiple years, whatever the case may be. They won't even listen. The whole mentality of, we've been doing this for 30 years, we're not going to change. Well, why is it that we're finding people that are resistive to the rules that are in place today, and they don't want to contest because the rules they were made 30, 40 years ago? Do those rules have a place in today's society of contesting? That is what you have to ask. Is the rules that were made in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, do they apply to 2024? And if they don't, let's change them. Let's get some ideas out there and change them. We have the technology. We have the people that have the brain power to program cool things and awesome interfaces to make ham radio interactive and make it this really cool environment. But no one is grasping those ideas and running with them. What we do need people to do this, and it's not going to happen overnight, but it seems like everyone wants to talk about it, but nobody wants to do anything.
Well, this is the point that I'm trying to make. I think that change is incredibly difficult, just in life in general, right? I mean, personal behavior, professional situations. So, you just take that potentially unwillingness or difficulty to change, combine that with a structure where people have been rewarded a certain way over time. They built their stations, they built their operating skills on a set of rules. I can sort of understand why they'd be reticent. But I keep going back to this idea that if there is a groundswell somewhere else, that group of people, I would encourage to create your contest, create the set of rules, create the infrastructure. You'll probably do it in a super efficient way and put that out into the marketplace. We don't need to use QST to do that anymore. It can be done really via YouTube and social media platforms, and then do a trial run. Not unlike, in some ways, the way Parks on the Air got started, right? It was really a groundswell of operators, a bunch of volunteers that built something into something that's pretty amazing today. But I want to take you back to another comment, though. I 100% agree that the reporting process for contests is clearly outdated and not timely. I mean, I've even had people on the show that have talked about finishing a contest, realizing they did really well, but there's like this sort of letdown in the first 5 minutes because it's over, it's done. There's not really that recognition, until QST comes out months down the road. I mean, certainly there's 3830 scores, but it's unofficial. However, that contrasts significantly with the WRTC, where the WRTC every 4 years, group of people go operate portably basically and compete, and the official winners are announced that Sunday night immediately after the contest. So it tells me it's possible. What do you think the holdup is with that? I mean, to me, that's just, and this is certainly out of my realm, but this is just computer programming and data crunching, I think, to spit out winners or losers. Am I wrong with that? And what's getting in the way?
No, you're totally right. And the reason why it hasn't happened is because of people. That's the rub, is people don't want to change. We've done this for 30 years. Well, I submit my score, through carrier pigeon, and I write all my QSOs down on a parchment and quill, and I send it off to the contest sponsors, and they calculate the results, and then I find out some way, QST, through email, whatever the case may be. It is resistant to change, right? I know that some people, I'm not going to call them out, are working on this, and I have had private conversations with those people, and it is always a bunch of holdouts that don't want to change. And for some, this first step to me is easy. This is a huge win if we can figure out who won a contest 30 seconds after the contest is over through some type of technology, if that's blockchain, if that's scoreboard, the online scoreboard, whatever the case may be. We have to figure this out. This is one of the big, huge building blocks of getting younger people involved in contesting. We have to have real-time scoring and real-time adjudication and instant gratification whenever a contest is done.
So Kyle, you just mentioned online scoreboard, and we haven't really talked about that. But you've got to believe that is part of the future contesting, don't you think?
That online scoreboard is great. It is amazing. We can do so much more with it, right? It is just a first step in building that framework of the next generation of contesting.
So tell me more about that. What would be the next steps with online scoreboard that you'd like to see?
One of the things that we could probably do is pipe so much more information into that scoreboard than what's going on with your radio, your rotator, your antennas. I've gotten to the point now where I don't understand why every single radio doesn't have an Ethernet jack in the back of it, right? And it's reporting information to the internet. Look at Xbox and Nintendo and the Wii and all that stuff. It's all connected, right? Why can't we do that on ham radio? And it's sending, maybe it's Node-RED. You create a Node-RED screen, and it sends all that information back to a central server. And then not only are you getting score, but you're getting all of this other information about what's going on in your shack in real time. And then, what the cool thing is, then you could literally report on it, like ESPN 73, right? You've got real time people commenting on a contest saying, oh, Kevin swung his antenna to the east on 40 meters at 4:00. Oh, that's a bad move. That guy is going to really, he's going to be hurting for QSOs in the next couple of hours. He needs to swing that thing back the other way. We could do real time commenting if we had the information, at our fingertips. Another thing is, it goes so far that, and it's not my ideas. There are so many other ideas that other people have on what we can do in real time that gets people excited about ham radio and contesting. The online scoreboard, again, is great. But it's just reporting scores. There's so many other things that we can do.
Now, Kyle, you bring up a great point, because I think that with ham radio contesting, we sort of all enter the black hole, right? We go to our basement, we go to our shack, or they're almost always separated from everybody because we don't want the noise and the hassle to bother the rest of our families. But we go into the black hole, we come out the other side, there's a score reported eventually, and that's it. But I think that there is some entertainment value in watching an online scoreboard and knowing exactly what's going on. I love the online scoreboard and I've been watching it, but all I see is a call sign. I don't really, unless I know the person, I don't know what they're operating. And you're right, there's some value in knowing that they're, they have 4 towers in the backyard, or maybe they only have one, or they have a dipole, whatever the working conditions are. And I think combined with that, there's also this aspirational element that we don't think about enough. That if people are watching that and understanding the world a little bit better, then maybe they're motivated then to get on air for the next contest because we've made it more real for them. It's not again that black hole that people go into and they step out of, and people say, well that's not me. I have no idea how they did that. We make it more accessible and aspirational.
We're creating personalities, right? And people are following people online because they like their personality, or they like the way that they contest, and they find something um, similar in their operating skills that they have, right? And that's why they are watching. Um, and you talked about the black hole. You go into the black hole, and then you come out 48 hours later, and you've competed in this contest. Another issue that I have with contests are these 48-hour contests. I don't have 48 hours to sit down and contest. Why can't we have contests that have sprints? Like, I only have an hour. I'm sorry, that's all you get is an hour, and I want to compete in an hour, and I want to, let's say it's a pickup game, right? I play pickleball, right? I put my paddle in the box, and the next 4 people that come and put their paddle in the box are playing a game. Why can't we have that for ham radio, where I put my call sign in a ring, and then I'm competing against those people in that hour, and it's a one for one contest, right? Or a one for many contest where I'm just participating. I got this time, and I just want to see how I do against these 4 or these 6 or these 8 individuals in this time period, you know? Um, so it is, again, we can do so much more with technology. We're just stuck in the dark ages with some of the things that we can do.
Well, I do want to address the 48-hour contest, and I think you're onto something there also, that a lot of us don't have that time, but it also makes it either a younger person's sport to be able to stay up for 48 hours,
Oh yeah.
or you're swapping it out for some poor health decisions in order to stay up and drink Red Bulls all weekend long. I think that there is a great argument to be made for trying to provide another option for people to not be on air for 48 hours and still have the potential of winning. I also see people, and I've talked to these people on air, want to move away from single op for that very reason. It's just too draining. So they kind of get out of the single op game at some point and move into multi or multi, which is fine, but it's an entirely different game in some ways. And not all of us have the opportunity to be part of a multi-team, or certainly a multi team. So I think it's a really fair point. Kyle, I'm looking at the clock and realizing that I'm bumping up against your limit. So I'll just give you one last opportunity to make one last statement, and then we can wrap up.
We need to change. Contesting is a great aspect of ham radio, and we need young ideas. We need people to implement those ideas. We need grassroots efforts. Um, there are some really cool things that we can do with technology. Putting Ethernet cards in the back of every computer, uh, getting online and making access to remote ham radios. One of the ideas that I had was, let's say you're working a pileup, and N1MM is all aware. It's sending information back, and let's say if you make a certain amount of QSOs in an hour, for the next 15 minutes, you get access to a remote station that's got 5/5/5, and you're able to access that station and make even more QSOs. It's almost like a power up, right? Um, we have this technology. They do it in the gaming world today. Why can't we make this a better hobby by using technology to our advantage for contests.
I've been talking to Kyle Craig, Alpha Alpha Zero Zulu. There's no doubt that this will probably be the most controversial conversation I've had, but I'm really happy that Kyle took the time today to challenge some of the old ideas, and we all get to choose what we do with those ideas, but I'm glad that most of you are open to at least hearing them. Kyle, thank you for taking time to be here today.
Thank you.